back to Teacher Quit Talk.
Welcome back to Teacher Quit Talk, everyone.
We hope that you're quitting and talking. And today's June 3rd. Those of you that are still in school, I'm praying for you.
We said a little prayer right before we started.
I say one every morning when I wake up for you.
So we're going to talk about a little controversy.
Yes, I've been extremely fixated on this. And my students were talking to me a lot about it, partially because it happened like on the last couple days of school and we had nothing to do. So like, what else were we going to talk about? So all the little headlines, whatever, says that a teacher was fired for letting his students, a lot of people are saying braid his hair, but that's not what was happening. They were unbraiding his hair.
He was fired?
That's what, so I saw one thing that said he was fired and one thing that said he was just under investigation.
I had no idea about that development.
Yes. Oh my God, stop with the pop-ups. Oh my God, the internet's unreadable. Okay, so this is from USA 9. I think it's a local news place. It says Maryland teacher under investigation was reassigned out of the classroom after videos show students unbraiding hair and painting his nails in class. And in the video, he said he asked 4 to 5 of his students, who he calls besties, for help. And one thing I found really interesting about this is like, I'm going to yank this from the back of some people's brains, but before there was Teacher Quit Talk, I used to do like submissions on Twitch where people would submit like education horror stories to me. And so many of them came from the county where this happened.
Maryland gets brought up a lot.
Prince George County, Maryland, like the schools there are really coming up frequently. Like, I don't know what's going on.
We read submissions from there.
Yes. We've read them on here. I read them when I used to do it on Twitch. Like, it seems like a lot of things are happening in that district. And I've been very fixated on this and have really wanted to talk about this because I think I just have so many thoughts. Like, I could easily talk about this for 3 hours. I think this situation is so emblematic of teachers not given adequate training and mentorship. I don't think that this man is a bad person. I think a lot of people online are kind of coming for him. And like, is it ideal? No, but he's not hitting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there is no training on like what's appropriate versus not appropriate. Truly none. Except for you do like the very obvious things like harassment. You get that training that are like videos that you have to watch. But like these little things are actually a very big deal. Well, somebody in my district broke up a fight and got fired. There was somebody who like bonked a kid on the head with a piece of paper and got fired. People think I'm crazy because I don't hug back, and people think I'm horrible and mean for that. I'm not like, get the hell away from me. I'm just like, oh, hands above my head. Oh, thank you, friend.
Yeah. Oh, I have mastered the high school teacher side hug. What I do, it's different because like your kids are small, but mine are like bigger than me, so it's kind of harder to avoid it. So what I do is that when they go to full frontal hug me, I turn my body and hold one of my arms out and I'll side hug them.
We had a social worker come in and talk to us about grooming. Basically, she was like, I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I'm saying that you as a trusted adult being somebody who normalizes an adult outside of the family, hugging or whatever, being super nice in a certain way, like it just can lead to a slippery slope. People think that grooming means that there is an intent to abuse a child. That's not always the case because a big part of grooming is actually that they are just comfortable with things that they shouldn't be comfortable with. So when there is a predatory adult, they're able to like push the boundaries of the child to the point where it's like a little bit more, and then all of a sudden it's like a situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to talk about this because I saw someone on TikTok who was saying basically the new generation of teachers is like so unprofessional. And like they were talking about it from like an academic perspective too, about how like most young teachers now, myself included, we were in school post No Child Left Behind and post all this standardized testing. So like we had a very different educational experience than a lot of veteran teachers. I didn't want to play the video on this podcast because I think it was a little defamatory. And it was like, oh, these new teachers are so unprofessional. They kept using the word ghetto, which I really dislike, and saying that like the new young teachers are so unprofessional with kids and with parents because a lot of teachers, I follow some of them. They're really funny. They'll make videos like cursing about parents and kids that like they're true, but it's really unprofessional. And I wanted to kind of talk about professionalism as teachers within the context of this guy that was reassigned, because I think that the situation he was in, I can see how it happened, and I think it was completely avoidable. And I wish that younger and newer teachers, we had more support around like professionalism and just what you were saying, like what appropriate boundaries are, because like we saw in this video, and some of you actually, I just realized, might have no idea what we're talking about. So it went viral a couple weeks ago. There was this guy who had his hair done in braids, and he, in the video, explained that he was going to get his hair redone, so he needed to take it out of the braids, but he didn't want to do it at home because they were filming like a commercial at school, but he like was on a limited amount of time before his appointment, basically. So he was on TikTok Live and had his students taking out his braids on TikTok Live. And I think the part that I am the most like cop-esque and like strict on is not even the action, it is the TikTok Live. What I'm not 100% sure, I tried to look this up and verify it, but I couldn't find a ton of great resources on it. But one person who's from this area posted, I think it's real, but I couldn't find it myself, so just gonna caveat that. They posted that this district specifically has a clause in their employee handbook that says you cannot film or post students on your social media, and that all of your social media needs to be acting like with professionalism. So to me, like the doing of the hair, I think it's kind of a gray area, but at the end of the day, you violated a rule that your district very clearly set forth for you. So all the people that were saying like, this isn't fair, that he's in trouble, like they're just demonizing him because he's a male teacher, a lot of that may be true. But to me, part of it that makes it like kind of clear cut, that makes it really hard to be on his side, is like that was explicitly written to you and you made a choice to not follow that. And when I looked at his account, it looked like that had been a trend where most of their videos did include kids in the video, either them talking or actual video of the kid. So trying to put myself in like a legal employer perspective, you can't have employees that are just violating your policies left and right publicly and brazenly.
I didn't know about the TikTok Live thing. I thought it was just a video.
No, so it was, this is what I saw, is that he was on TikTok Live doing that for like a while. And then people in the live were getting mad and they were like, this is weird. Why are you doing this? So then I guess he like screen recorded or clipped his live and then posted a video where he was had like a voiceover over the recording and was like, people are upset about this. Let's talk about it. And then he made a video about it. And that's the other part that I kind of like struggled with on this, because I like, y'all have heard this podcast, I always want to be on the teacher's side. And the first time I saw it, I was trying to be on his side, but the more I dug into this, I just realized it's a really complicated and nuanced situation. And to me, I think if after the live he had just taken it down and then like gone to his district and like, we all make mistakes, no one got hurt, I feel like it would have been more recoverable. But the fact that he leaned in super hard and was like, I should be able to do this, when, like I mentioned, his district literally clearly states in their social media policy you cannot post children online, that's the part that it made it really hard to like ride for the teacher, because it just showed like a lack of like professional awareness to me. And it really, that's where it seemed like it flipped. And before, it just seemed like when I saw the live, it, like I said, it didn't seem like anything nefarious was going on. Like, was it unprofessional? Yes. But was it abusive? I don't think so at all. But then when I saw him like really doubling down on it, it kind of showed me like, okay, you're kind of viewing your classroom as a content creation space is what it seems like. And that's the problem I have with it, not with the actual act itself.
I totally get that. And it goes back to filming students for me in general. Like, this is a conversation I feel like both of us have been having online since 2020. Like, it's just, there's no reason.
So I haven't been having it since 2020. I would say I've been having it really the last like 2.5 years. And I really think that like some higher being was looking out for me, because I started making TikToks when COVID happened. When I started making TikToks, I was quarantined at home alone. So there was no way for my students to be in my videos. But I think if I hadn't been quarantined at home alone, I might not have had that level of judgment to be like, my students should not be in my videos. But by the time we came back to school, I had like 10,000 followers, and I was like, okay, I need to be mindful of that. But back when I had like 30 followers, I don't know if that would have been on my mind. So I try to not like judge people too much on it, because by the time I was back in the room with kids, I had already seen how crazy people can be on the internet and had seen other creators face backlash. So I was like, all right, let me from day one have like really strict, clear boundaries, because I was able to learn from other people who didn't have clear boundaries. But I wonder, like, if I had started social media earlier, that might have not been the case. I like to give myself the idea that I would be perfect, but
there was a time in my life when, because I was home during COVID when I started on TikTok too, and I would record myself teaching on Zoom. And sometimes I left the kids' voices in, but like rarely. Often I would mute it out and like put captions over what they were actually saying. But I didn't always, and I didn't understand like the gray area there. I did know enough to know not to post their faces, but that was like something that was a learning curve for me. Like we said, there's not training on this. A lot of it, you just have to use your best judgment, and we all make mistakes, and that's part of life. Like you said, the doubling down and the TikTok live is something that I've seen teachers do. There was a teacher who would go live while teaching kindergarten with kids in the room.
that's insane.
I just couldn't believe that. And people would be in my comment section begging me, oh, can you go live and teach? Can you go live? No, are you guys, what do you think this is? Like, I'm at work.
Yeah.
I cannot believe the level of like confusion that some people have on this, and the defensiveness. I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast. I know we talked about it. I'm having the worst time finding a activity, dance, soccer, whatever, gymnastics, or a school for Jay that does not require that I say she can appear on social media or on their brochures or their marketing. You can't even like cross it out and say no, decline. There is no option. If you want to enroll, you do that. And that's crazy to me.
They're like, oh my God, so sorry. You thought our primary business objective was gymnastics. It is not. Our primary business objective is our Instagram. The gymnastics is kind of like a side thing we do.
The fact that that was in the handbook of this guy's thing and he went ahead with it anyways, I mean, that's
And like,
a lot.
have I definitely signed stuff without reading terms and conditions? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, man, maybe he didn't read it, but at the end of the day, you probably should have read it, because like I gave my teaching contract a little once over. I wish my district had a clear social media policy. Mine just said mine said, when representing blank school district on social media, one will act with professionalism. And I took that as, I'm not representing our district, so I can do whatever I want, was my legal interpretation.
Yeah, you don't have the shirt on.
Yeah, no, literally. So I think it's fine. But I did read the rest of the contract. If I get arrested, I have to inform either my principal or HR within 24 hours. I'm clear on the things that are required of me. And I just feel like a lot of younger teachers coming in are just not. And I think that it's really terrible. And I think that, like we've talked about, teachers don't have enough training when they come into the classroom, and they're not set up to be successful. And I think this is a big symptom of that, is a lot of these teachers, mostly younger ones, not to demonize my age group, but mostly younger ones, kind of acting unprofessional on social media. And neither of us are the poster child for professionalism on social media.
No.
But I'm very pro like alternate certification. But I think this is exactly what happens when we dump people into a classroom when they have literally zero training, which I was one of those people, so real. But when you take young adults who have never been a legal authority figure, you've given them no training on how to be a legal authority figure, you give them no support, you do not model professionalism for them, because like we've talked about, a lot of administrators act extremely unprofessional towards us and treat us like literal children. You can't be shocked when teachers are not acting as like perfectly pious beings who have never done anything wrong, because if you look at who our teachers are, that's not, it's like, yeah, they're people, man.
Totally. Like, we're just people. Training is definitely something that there's a blind spot in. But don't we have like a guiding compass in our heart that tells us what's right and wrong?
Yeah. I want to read some of this. I have 2 articles that I found about this. One, I already read the headline that said he was reassigned. So I'm just going to read it. A Maryland teacher is getting a lot of attention and criticism after posting a video of his students unbraiding his hair in a classroom. As of Wednesday, the video has been seen nearly 7 million times on the teacher's TikTok page. This man is a middle school science teacher confirmed with that county. In the video, he said he picked 4 to 5 of his favorite students, who he calls besties, for help. He said he picked students that were done with their schoolwork, and all of it happened during the last 10 minutes of class. I also saw someone saying that he wrote a pass to get them out of another teacher's class. And I really didn't like that, because whenever another teacher gives me a pass for a kid, I always send them, because I'm assuming for you to take them out of my instructional time, it's something that's good for them and that's important. So like, I'm not even going to bother asking, because I just trust that you as a fellow teacher would only, because like the only times I send a pass is when I really like need them to like finish a test. We need to talk about an assignment. Like, it's something we really need one-on-one time for. So I didn't love the writing passes for them. Because if I need a kid to do something that is not worthy, they have to bring me a pass. Like, if they want to redo my bulletin board during my planning, I'm like, you need to get your other teacher to say that that is okay. I'm not coming to get you for that. They need to give you explicit permission. In another video, he also said he lets his students paint his nails. The student you see in this video has goals and aspirations to be a nail tech. Her mom watches my videos all the time. Not only does she love it, but she signed a media release for her daughter. That's what I think is so interesting about this specific situation and why I wanted to talk about it, because it seems like this man deeply cares about his students. That's why I found this so interesting, because so many times when we read news stories, it's teachers that are like negligent and like don't give a shit about the kids. And this one was just so clear to me. It seemed like
very clearly does.
Perfect intentions, wrong action shakeabout, which is why I kind of wanted to talk about it. The videos generated a lot of talk with more than 20,000 comments. Some support him, saying he's more of a father than most. I feel like that's kind of projecting. And some saying this is too close and personal. Lots of blogs have claimed that he was fired, which is false. He was reassigned out of the classroom during the investigation. So I guess the investigation actually isn't over. The news outlet read the code of conduct, and while it does not say anything about braiding hair or painting nails, it does say staff must respect students' personal boundaries by maintaining proper space and demonstrating appropriate behaviors. It also explicitly states that staff should not record student faces or voices unless specifically assisting with a performing arts class or career technology.
There you go.
So that was my big thing, is like, I'm not mad at him for doing that. I'm mad that he recorded it, which makes it sound like it should be a secret, but I don't even know.
It's so hard because like you don't want to normalize something that a predator could do. Like it's just one of those things where it's like, yes, you do care about your students, and so we need to have boundaries almost because you care. As somebody who was like victimized or whatever, grooming is very serious, and it happens not always with malicious intent.
I don't mean to laugh.
No,
but just you saying or whatever and making that face just kind of made me giggle. Like,
no, if you don't laugh at me, I would be so uncomfortable because that's how I navigate life. But no, it's like fine. It's like the social worker who came to talk to us said, you just don't want to normalize something that maybe shouldn't be normalized. Is posting it online, breaking your code of conduct, and then maybe kind of normalizing it with people that are not as caring.
I forgot about this till this exact moment, but this is reminding me of a mistake that I made my first year teaching that I feel like I see a lot of parallels here. So my first year teaching, I was really close to the kids, especially the football players, the basketball players, and the football players, the cheerleaders, and the little athletic trainers, because I was doing like athlete photography for the school just to be nice. So I was on the sidelines at the game. So we would spend hours and hours and hours together. And one of the kids that I was very close to, like close to his mom, not on anything weird, he fell asleep in class. So I sprayed him with rose water, which is like really harmless. And I was like joking about it, and he was joking about it. And a veteran teacher was like, I know that you're joking, and in this specific scenario, it's totally fine, but a parent could get really upset at that. So like, you shouldn't do that. And when I thought about it from that perspective, I was like, oh my God, you're totally right. And like, this kid's mom was the one that was like, you can smack him upside the head if he's like, she did not care. So like, in the instance that I did it, it wasn't a problem, but I was really glad that he called me out in like a respectful learning moment way about that, because that could be really not okay. Like if I was a parent and I found out a teacher was spraying the kids, and again, like it was a tiny little bottle, just like a spritz on his arm to wake him up, but I can see where from a different perspective that could really not be good.
Yeah. I went to a school where we had a planetarium, and if you took astronomy, the teacher literally would spray you with water if you fell asleep. But that man also went on to marry a former student. So
Exactly. So it's like maybe a little bit questionable. And then I saw, obviously, we're both white. If you didn't know that, if you're only an audio listener, we are both white. I'm so sorry if you thought it was a different situation. But a lot of people were talking about race as an aspect of this as well, because there was I think he was either a principal or an assistant principal that had a video go viral where a bunch of the kids were a little bit older. It looked like high school girls were bedazzling his head. He was bald, and they were literally using like eyelash glue to glue little diamonds over his whole head. And a lot of people are like, how come this black teacher is facing all this backlash and this white principal, it's like no one even cares? And y'all know us. Normally, I'll be the first to call out like a white man who should be facing consequences. But there is one big key difference between those two incidences. With the braids, he was the one going on live and posting it. With this principal bald head bedazzling, one of the kids was taking a video and posting it. And it's crazy that social media is so insane that just that slight difference makes it two completely different situations to me. Because, I don't know, I just think it's so different for the teacher to be posting it versus the kid to be posting it.
And also, there's an element of, like, you kind of can't control what kids post. So if that's happening and they post it, like, you know.
I honestly don't have a super strong opinion on whether he was right or whether he was wrong. And I think it's just, like, a very teachable moment. And I'm not going to lie, I did feel really fucking vindicated when this happened, because I had been on Instagram, for those of you that follow my Instagram, I had been like talking about how I like having my hair in 2 French braids, but I can't do it to myself. And I was just saying like, oh, I don't want to go to a salon because they're going to charge me a ton, and I don't even want my hair washed or anything. And the amount of people, this is all prior to this blowing up on social media. This is like a couple months ago. The amount of my followers and people that were like, ask your students to do it. Just have one of the girls in your class do it during class. And I was just ignoring them all because I couldn't explain why I didn't want to do that. I was just like, that whole thing I feel like that's weird. I don't know. I was like, just the thought of me asking them to braid my hair, it's very intimate, not in a sexual way, but just in a way like your sister braids your hair. Like it just felt too intimate to me. So I didn't do it. And then like a week after I found one of my neighbors does my hair now, a week after I found her, this happened. And I was like, yes. And I was talking to my students about it because they actually brought it up. They were like, did you see this on TikTok? And they all had very mixed reactions, which I thought was really interesting. Some of them were like, my students are very direct, so just know this is not my sentiment. This was their sentiment. They were like, nah, he's on some weird shit. He should not have those girls behind his desk like that.
Oh, yeah, behind the desk is a thing, too.
A lot of the girls in my class were like, he should not have girl students that close to him. Like that was a big take for a lot of them. And I was like, so true. And then a lot of them were like, that's not weird at all. I do like my friend does that for this person. And I teach in a small town. A lot of our staff, their kids go to that school. So some of them were like, I do this for my mom's friend. And that's it's just such a gray area. And there's no like clear right or wrong. And I just wish that we had like more clear guidelines for professionalism, because I think this could be really easily avoided.
That's one of the reasons that it's really important to err on the side of caution. It's like if there's any inkling, anybody says anything could be weird, you feel like maybe I shouldn't do that, just don't. But like as teachers, it's really a good idea to have boundaries, even if you think it makes you seem cold and uncaring. It does not. I promise you, it does not. Don't let students behind your desk, maybe.
Just a thought.
If you're going to be alone with a kid in a room, have your door open and stand near your door. Get a colleague that's there with you. Like, just don't be alone with them. Things like that maybe you don't think of. Because, the whole class left and it's just me and this kid. Just don't leave yourself open to that.
One of my favorite little stalkers that likes to come see me during my planning period, I leave my door open like most of the time, especially if it's my planning. And she came in and shut the door because she wanted to talk to me about something. And I was like, no, go open the door. She was weirded out by it. She was like, why does it matter? And I was like, because if I'm alone in a room with a kid with the door closed, that just looks weird. And I saw like the realization in her eyes, and she goes, oh my God, you're so right. And then she was like, now I'm judging all the teachers that do that. Because why is the door closed? And she like immediately went from not getting it at all, and she was so mad that I made her get back up and go reopen the door, to immediately she was like, oh yeah, I can see that. I see that vision. Miss Bond, who we had on the podcast recently, who I am quite literally obsessed with and will be voting for president, she had a lot of really good things to say, in my opinion. And by good, I mean like nuanced, interesting.
She always does.
She always does.
That's those damn literary people. They read the books, they say the words.
And I can't.
Me either. I was thinking about that last night. I was like, I wish I was a book girly, but I just can't. Anyways.
Oh, so you need to read Julia Fox's book.
People say that I look like her sometimes, and I'm like, that's really nice of you.
Oh, I kind of see it. At first I was about to say I don't, but I do. Like, I see it in like the top half of your face more than the bottom half of your face.
It's also in certain scenarios, I think I look more like her. Anyways.
So she has a couple tweets about this. So one, someone posted, what's the difference? And it was the one I was saying, the principal getting his head bedazzled. I'll hold it up for my YouTubers out there.
Wow.
There it is.
It's involved.
Right? It looks like it took a long time. And then the other one is the guy that we are talking about. And Hey Miss Bond said the differences. 1, the principal is not recording and uploading this. 2, the principal did not ask the female students to perform labor that he'd otherwise do himself. 3, he's the principal. Schools fundraise using principals and their bodies all the time. And that's one aspect of this that, like, as a white woman, I didn't really think about, but as soon as I saw Miss Bond talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that is such an important aspect of this conversation, where she was talking about letting Black girls just be kids at school, because like women, and especially Black women, are forced to mature much faster than men. Like, intersectionality is very much a thing, so anything that affects women usually affects Black women in a different and more intense way. So just the way that we expect girls to mature faster than boys, that's even more exacerbated to Black women. And Hey Miss Bond said, I really liked this tweet, and her tweets are part of why I wanted to talk about this, because she had just like a great nuanced take about it. She said, let Black girls be children and educate them while they're at school. Stop adultifying them, mammifying them, filming them, punishing them, objectifying them, and sexualizing them. And I think that that is like my favorite take anyone's had on this, because like, what kind of message does it send to girls that I'm writing you a note to take you out of your class to come perform beauty labor on me, when you could be using that time to like develop a passion of yours, be getting mentorship from another teacher, do something fun. Like, I just think that even though it is a bonding moment, I think that it is also like someone doing your hair for you is a service. Like, that's something you pay people to do. So this, just the same way, I would not feel comfortable paying my students to clean my classroom or asking them to like do obviously they clean up after themselves, but I mean, like, if I asked a kid to like, hey, can you take all the files out and dust everything? Like, someone should get paid to do that. I don't want to have a child laborer doing
100%.
it. Okay, I found the rest of her tweets about them. And this is the one that I really was like, yes. When another teacher asks for students during class time, I assume it's serious business, because that's the only reason for an adult to ask for a kid out of a mandated class. If I found out they were taking down another teacher's hair, I would have feelings. And then she also said, a lot of folks are being intentionally disingenuous about the braids situation. If you saw your daughter on her teacher's TikTok taking down his hair when she's supposed to be in class and you're just chilling, totally cool, be so for real. Because I did see a lot of parents who were defending him who were like, I would love it if my child's teacher did this. And I think a lot of y'all, like, I don't think you're lying, but I do think if you found yourself in that situation, you might feel differently than how you think you would feel.
I cannot imagine.
If I was a parent, it would make me raise an eyebrow. I don't know if I would go like full legal team guns a-blazing, but like, I would make a call and be like, hey, I just saw this and was wondering if you could elaborate on that for me, because I'm concerned.
Especially like the TikTok live during school hours.
That's, again, it's always going to come back to that for me. Because like, if I was a parent and I found out that my child helped him take his hair down, I'd be like, that's kind of unprofessional, but whatever. Seems like a nice guy. But the TikTok live is where I'd be like, why are you asking children to perform labor and then you're filming that labor that you make money off of?
And like, what's the point?
Yeah. What is the point?
Yeah, why were you live? Actually,
This just reminded me of one time my student, her nails were really cute. And I was like, oh, where do you get your nails done? Because she's a child. So I figured me and her have similar budgets.
Right.
And she was like, oh, my friend does it. She can do it for you too. She can come to your house. And I was like, no. I was like, she goes to school here? And my student was like, yeah, she can just come to your house with all this stuff. And I was like, could she come to my classroom after school instead? And she was like, no, because she doesn't want to bring her stuff to school, because apparently they've been trying to get her to bring her stuff to school and do it at school, and she won't do it. I was like, tell your friend that once she graduates, I will be more than happy to hire her to come to my house. And my student looked at me and goes, so you don't support Black businesses, I see.
Oh my God. I love this generation. I love them.
And I was like, no, I do support Black businesses. I do.
Cancel her.
I was like, I just also support me having a job and not being investigated for misconduct. So, like, I will support her business when she graduates. Like,
that's hilarious. You said, like, that, like, alternative certifications are one of the reasons why teachers aren't getting this training, but I don't think that anybody's getting this training.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There is not, I mean, I think it's really easy to be like, well, I didn't go through a program, I didn't go through student teaching. A lot of your learning is just on the job, and a lot of your learning comes from, like, veteran teachers checking you. You know what I mean? Being like,
yeah.
hey.
I don't want to say it's because of alternative certification, but I just mean, like, if you take the alt cert route, a lot of times you don't have any student teaching. So you're making all those mistakes with kids, when I feel like if you do go through student teaching, you'll see more examples where you're not the sole adult in the room. Like, being the sole legal authority in a room is really overwhelming when you've had no training about how to do it. So I've always said, I think the best way to do alt certification is pay those people a full-time salary to give them a year of on-the-job training as a student teacher. Like, maybe you student teach in the morning and you have virtual classes in the afternoon and you just get paid a salary to do that. I feel like that would set people up for success, because I think you're right. A lot of people that go to college for education, it just depends what mentor teacher they had. And then a lot of people that didn't go into college for education, it's like, oh, I hope that you're really good at setting boundaries, because no one's going to teach you how. Oh, I meant to talk about this earlier. I feel like part of the reason I did well in this, and I'm very, like, mindful towards this, except for a couple of my mishaps, like I've mentioned, with spraying a kid with rose water. We're still all good on that. Love his mom. That was the same kid who, when I made a positive call home, his mom cried and said her son's entire life she had never had that happen. So just to give context, like, I was a part of this family at this point. But anyway, one thing that was really helpful for me in teaching is, like, when I worked at a hotel, we did a lot of role playing about how to set boundaries with guests, where it's like, yes, I'm having so much fun with you, but, like, I am at work and you are a guest here. So, like, when they would give us examples, like when guests offer you shots and things like that, like how to handle that without ruining the vibe. And, like, a lot of those skills, I think, made me a good teacher, to be able to be like, you're having so much fun and I'm having so much fun with you, but I'm just not going to do that thing right now. And I think that's what new incoming teachers need, is literally to, like, be in a conference room role playing of, like, your student asks you for a hug. How do you respond to that? Because it is a skill about how to respectfully and kindly enforce professional boundaries as an authority figure over small children and big children and medium children.
I don't think it makes you any less warm or loving or caring. You do not have to touch a child. Source, I don't give hugs, and I have students that to this day still love me, still talk to me, their families too. Like, I still could form a relationship. That is not a part of it, and it does not have to be. I know a lot of people come from, like, the preschool and daycare world into kindergarten and would, like, want to pick the kids up, and I'm like, put the 5-year-old back on the ground, honey.
As someone who used to work at daycare, where literally during nap time, I had 3 kids that would contact nap. I was literally nap trapped, like, one on my legs, one on my arms, one on my middle section. And they were 1.
And I would want that so much for my child. Like, Jay would need that. I would want her to be with people that are safe to do that. But then once you're in the public school system, once they hit a certain age, you just can't.
To me, the difference is, like, a babysitter, a nanny, a daycare parents are choosing to have their kid there, so that's a different legal situation. Once you're in school, the government is mandating that your child be there. So if it's mandated that your child be in school, I think we have a higher legal responsibility than you do when you're like babysitting for someone and it's more of a personal relationship. Like, this child is in this building because of where they live. Their parents did not choose me, and I need to maintain some professionalism around that because, like, I hate comparing teachers to cops, but it's the same thing as like police have their job and they should be following professional things because we didn't get to choose to have a police officer in our community as opposed to a babysitter. I know people have to have childcare, but you get what I'm saying?
There's just a lot of stuff that goes with being a government employee that you just want to be mindful of.
Be mindful of why you were invited to the government employee section. Do you know that meme?
Yes. Yes. I was just playing it in my brain.
Be mindful.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, anything else?
It's just such a nuanced conversation. Let us know on the Twitters and on the Instagrams and the TikTok what you all think of this. I've just been like dying to talk about it because I had so many thoughts about like how nuanced it was. And I hope that this is a good learning lesson for lots of newer teachers out there and veteran teachers. Maybe if any of y'all just never learned these lessons somehow. But I think it is a good learning lesson experience where, like, because so often the news we see of teachers getting fired is like they literally like embezzled money or assaulted children. So I wanted to talk about this because it really just seems like good intentions, wrong environment, wrong strategy here. I don't think that this will destroy this man's career, which I think is good. I don't think he should have his career destroyed because of this.
Yeah.
I thought about having him come on the podcast, but if you're listening and you want to come on, we're more than happy to have you on. Like, I'm happy to hear from you, but I felt like you've been talking a lot about this, so I've kind of felt like everything you wanted to say, you said.
Oh my gosh. So patrons, you need to utilize our chat room feature. We have a literal chat room on the Patreon. You can talk to each other. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid. Make some friends.
It works much better than the Discord, and I don't have to update the link for it. And the Facebook is dead. So we have other places for you to talk to each other, but you like don't talk to each other. Please talk to each other, and you can talk about this.
Exactly.
Have fun. Anyways, we love you.
Mwah. Just as a disclaimer, because I am someone who is actively teaching, everything on this podcast is my personal opinion and does not reflect my district, my state, my employer, my students, or my admin. Everything on this podcast was recorded on personal time, on personal equipment, and is a completely separate endeavor from my school district.